Ready, set, go.
Yeah, whole team on a loose. Kick it up like Kung Fu. Untamed, yeah, cool. Running plays like who knew. Hella fast when I slide through. You would've thought we was in a zoo. Engine roar like a lion do. Yeah, devil, I'm a damn fool. Switching lanes, hanging out the roof. Tires screech when I bend the corner. All you see is a big poof. Then I'm leaving my initials. Street marks, I'm official. Taking off like a missile. You can hear the wind whistle.
Yeah, I don't think they ready. I don't really think they want it. I don't think they ready. Hey, yeah, I don't think they ready. I don't really think they want it. I don't think they ready. Ready, set, go. 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 Ready, set, go. 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 Yeah, ready, set, go.
Get into it like pronto. Get hit with a combo. Do it large, real jumbo. So dirty like gumbo. Big money in a two-seater. Hair blowing, you see her. I got her, you need her. Never would I wanna be her. And I've been grinding all of my life. Now look at my sights. Mile high, I'm fly. Ride till I die. Look how I arrive like the president inside. See the look in their eyes.
I don't think they ready. I don't really think they want it. I don't think they ready. Yeah, I don't think they ready. I don't really think they want it. I don't think they ready. Ready, set, go.
Ready, set, go. Let's go.
Go.
On your mark.
Go.
Yeah.
Ready, set, go.
Ready, set,
Go.
on your mark.
Go.
Let's go.
Go. Yeah, ready, set, go.
Yeah, and you know I like big coupes. Two-seater with the missing roof. Run the meter to a can't boot. I'm the best, got them all mute. Break the bank, talking big loot. Business talk, making big moves. Full tank, no, I can't lose. Left them in the dust, confused. All I ever did was break rules. Full throttle, I don't like cruise. Guess I got a couple screws loose. Son, devil, I'm a damn fool. Ain't no telling what I might do. Taking off like a missile. Street marks, I'm official.
Yeah, I don't think they ready. I don't really think they want it. I don't think they ready. Hey, yeah, I don't think they ready. I don't really think they want it. I don't think they ready. Ready, set, go.
Ready, set,
Go.
let's go.
Go.
On your mark.
Go. Ready, set, go.
Ready, set,
Go.
on your mark.
Go.
Let's go.
Go. Ready, set, go. 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 Ready, set, go. 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 Ready, set, go. Go. Ready, set, go.
All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Ward Radio live stream. I am your host, Cardin Ellis, and today I am joined in the studio by none other than, you got to turn your camera on, bro.
Oh,
I just realized that my camera wasn't on.
yeah, you keep talking. I'll
You know
turn
what
on
I'm
the camera.
saying?
Yeah.
That's funny. I am joined once again, back by popular demand. None other than our boy, Barrett Burgin, is here in studio to talk to us about the lost history of Mormon cinema. I got to tell you, I am super excited to hear about this. And if everything I've been hearing in the green room is true, then I am just totally stoked out of my mind. I'm so excited that we're actually talking about Mormon cinema right now, and that two professional camera operators are both in the studio right now, because your camera's not on. And what better people to speak about professional cameraism than ones that
So weird.
just
Okay,
yeah,
it's
there
on
we
now.
go.
Yeah,
It's gonna
that should
come
be
on
working.
there.
There we go.
Boom,
Yeah.
shakalaka.
It's like, wait.
It's no, I will fix it. You just start talking, I'll
Yes.
fix it, baby.
Okay. All right.
If there's any question that this is live or that we are enthusiasts,
Yes, that's right. This was a
there,
test.
there is your answer.
This was
right
a test
there.
to see.
So
see if it
that is too funny.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
as we're all coming into the chat and as you're all having fun, say hi to each other in the chat. Please make sure you guys like the stream, and let's give a big shout out to all of our sponsors. Thank you very much, Angel Studios, for being a sponsor of this channel and of this episode, as well as our boys Go and Do Travel. All right, who are also a sponsor of this channel. So big shout out to them and everybody who's been helping us out on the Amazon wish list. Namely Seed Monfred. We actually thanked them last live stream, but this was still on the table. So they got thanked a second time. So thank you everybody who's been assisting us do our thing. We're in our Sunday garb today. You're looking good, bro.
That's right. Thank
How
you.
was church, man?
got
How
out
was
of the way.
church?
It was great. You have a lovely ward. It was fun being out here in California, and meeting all of Cardin's friends. They told me that basically every other week he brings somebody to church from being a guest on Ward Radio. So I was the flavor of the week, as it were. So,
all right, I'm just a butterfly going from flower to flower.
No, and it was a musical sacrament meeting. So we sang hymns the whole time. So who can complain?
Dude, you came on an easy one
with that. Yeah.
Oh, I also realized there's a light that's not on behind us both. That's funny.
There we go.
Hey, it's like those
we
YouTube
were just
videos.
yeah we were coming back from Cardin's family dinner, and we're having riveting discussion, and we came down and sat right down, and so here we've been.
No, we were
turning
arguing
on
feminism. You wanted to repeal the 19th, and I was saying women should have rights. And
I like how Cardin switched to was saying what.
Look, I'm trying to ruin your film career, so you have to come and make documentaries with me.
You can try
and be impoverished, just as I am.
Yeah.
So, guys, we're stoked to be here. I got to tell you, live streams are so fun, and they're fun because you guys are freaking cool. So, gonna give a big shout out to everybody that's jumping in the chat. I see some familiar faces here. We got quadruple digit, it looks like. PAH3W's here. Man, such YouTube names. Holy smokes, such YouTube name. Lisa Frampton showing up in the chat, as well as, come on, give me somebody else. No. Somebody else new. Oh, I'm sure they'll be here. There's El Hombre Chivo.
Last night.
Oh,
yeah.
that's a
new
new one.
I know who that is.
You do?
Yeah. I won't dox him.
The man goat. Okay. Translated into Spanish, that is the goat man or the man goat, however you want to pronounce it. Welcome, man goat, to the Ward Radio Wigwam. I can't believe I would ever say that. But yeah, welcome to the Ward Radio Worldwide studio. We're excited to be here. So anyway, the subject du jour today is something I am super excited about. The lost history of Mormon cinema.
Yeah.
When you started talking about the first wave.
Yeah, I think this was on one of the episodes we recorded. Actually.
Yeah, it
wasn't last night on the live stream, but we were talking about the future and like changing, Latter-day Saint cinema presence. And yeah, I brought up the 5 waves of Mormon cinema, the first wave, and Cardin was like, what?
When you started talking this first wave, I felt like I was just opening up an original manuscript of the Book of Enoch. And just hearing apocryphal literature for the first time.
It was the video on demand, but yeah.
And it was yeah. This was intriguing. So what is our history that none of us know about?
Yeah.
What is the lost history of Mormon cinema?
Okay.
Why is there a first wave, second wave, third wave? You're speaking a language that I feel in my core and I love, and nobody else is talking this way. So just take the floor, bro.
Okay.
Take the floor.
Okay. So first of all, if you're tuning in with us, Cardin and I are going to be kind of geeking out about film and cinema. We both love movies. He's out here in LA, and something I just want to compliment Cardin on is just the other night before we filmed, he was talking all about like film restoration and like old movies and the process of finding old film, and like he has a friend that has developed his own kind of technology. I won't get specific, but it's really, really cool. So we're gonna geek out a little bit, and there's some historians that I want to absolutely attribute some credit to here in a moment, because that's what I'm pulling from, and that's how I kind of became aware of the true history of Mormon cinema, as it's been called, Latter-day Saint cinema, Mormon cinema. And if you like film, and if you're like kind of a film head like we are, then you understand, and art more generally, that art and film have what are called waves or movements. Okay, so. For those of us who are familiar with like American film, you have the golden age of Hollywood, and then you have sort of what happened in the 70s, in the 60s and 70s, as the golden age of Hollywood and the studio system collapsed, and you had the American zoetrope and the movie brats, and suddenly there were young filmmakers like Scorsese and Spielberg who were and George Lucas that were trying their own things and sort of democratizing how movies were made and changed the industry. Well, this has happened in many different like groups and communities and nations, and it's something that we learned about at BYU Film School, and any film school will kind of go over these things. So like you have what's called the French New Wave, and this is where young guys were just starting to take cameras and film stuff really, really like kind of unprepared and raw and artistically, and they weren't worrying about budgets. You have what's called Italian neorealism, which is the same sort of exploration, German expressionism, and what most people don't know, and what certainly we were not super keenly aware of as young Latter-day Saint filmmakers in film school, is that there's a whole history and academic kind of there's a history of waves of Mormon cinema too, and if we ever want a sort of new Mormon cinema, we have to understand the past. And so that's where I started with this. I did a short film when I was at BYU that caused, frankly, some controversy of some older administrators and professors who had really strong feelings about Mormon cinema. And I was like, what am I walking into here? And I had an administrator that both of us know, Cardin knows him too, that took this book off the shelf and was like, it was very dramatic, because they kind of tried to stop me from making my short film. A couple of people did, and I thought it was
sounds like a Dean Duncan move.
It wasn't Dean Duncan. I love Dean Duncan.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay.
But the particular administrator of the particular time I was there,
that Leffler guy
didn't want me
it was
making
Leffler.
the next door for some reason.
Yeah, he chewed me out too.
I know that for a fact because this particular administrator told me so.
I'm just guessing names until I see you flinch, bro. I just
and it was the short film's called The Next Door. If you want to look it up, it's on YouTube. It's 10 years ago. But the reason he gave me, I will always appreciate, which is he took this book off of his shelf and he handed it to me, and he was like, if you're gonna make movies about Mormons, Mormon cinema, you need to know the history. And I was like, wow, okay, it was like this old manuscript, and so I read it, and in it was this fantastic article by Randy Astle and Gideon Burton that talked about the 5 waves of Mormon cinema. And so I peeled it open and I started reading, and I learned about who we're going to talk about tonight, which was the first wave of Mormon cinema, they're called the Clawson brothers. And if you want to read this article, it's a BYU Studies article. You can find it for free online. And also, Randy wrote a fantastic book called Mormon Cinema Origins. It's actually Origins to 1952, but Origins is such a great name for like how this all began. Okay, so anyway, that's kind of the long version of how I started learning about this history and how seriously it's been studied. Most prominently by Randy Astle and Mason Kamana Allred, and these are 2 great historians. And so these are the Clawson brothers. And Cardin, do you know who the Lumiere brothers are?
They're credited with developing modern film.
Yeah,
basically.
That's right. So in the late 1800s, there were these 2 guys named the Lumieres.
Even though it wasn't them, but that's fine. No, I just
Edison stole everything.
No,
so the Lumieres filmed all of this kind of documentary footage in the late 1800s, and the Clawson brothers, Shirley and Chet Clawson, have basically been compared to Mormonism's Lumieres. So in 1913, they got this camera and started going around and making films. And
so this is them right here in the thumbnail.
That's them.
Right?
Yes,
okay,
that's right.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, these 2 brothers. And they actually tried to make they immediately tried to make the first Latter-day Saint feature film called The Life of Nephi. And they bought the script or the rights to this or something from the First Presidency, and they were supposed to pay $400, but they didn't pay their contract, and
so they were filmmakers from Hollywood.
You know what's so funny is the producers. So like they didn't pay the contract, and it didn't like work out. So they started this project, and then it kind of the other producers went in to finish it, and they declared they're like, these brothers are going to be failures, and they're like, it's never going to work.
Really?
But there is an image that remains from the life of Nephi. It's actually
look at
in
this.
the Discord.
This is from Kipachapichin, the Mormon history blog. I don't know what that is. But here's some other...
Yeah, that's from the life of Nephi.
Yeah, from the life... Look at this, dude.
Yeah. So
Holy,
this
looks
old,
like old
silent film, the angel stopping Laman and Lemuel from beating
I was going to say,
Nephi
you know
to
what this
death
looks like? It looks like a mix of both Metropolis...
Yes.
But also it looks a lot like, not the cabinet of Dr. Caligari, but... who are the ones that would always have the super cringy, heavy makeup in the 1920s?
Oh, right.
Almost like the old Westerns.
Yeah.
But I'm going to remember, not Buster Keaton. I'll come up with it. Yeah. No, but yeah, I mean, that's actually kind of cool.
It is cool. Yeah, it's interesting. And this film doesn't survive.
No, it's lost.
It's lost, but we have these images from the life of Nephi.
Wait, so how do we have the images and not the film?
I don't know. I don't know the details on that. And by the way, guys, I am not.
Somebody
an expert
has a
on
copy.
This.
Somebody in Mormonism has a
Somebody
copy
might
in
have
some
it.
cedar chest somewhere.
You know, that's probably true. I've learned about a few things that have like recently been found.
If anybody in this chat or anybody that watches this replay has anything to do with the Clawson brothers and this original film, please reach out to Ward Radio. We will get that film preserved. You haven't seen my film preservation setup behind.
Oh, I gotta take a look at that.
It's pretty awesome.
We'll geek out about that.
Okay.
So after that fiasco and that embarrassment with the first presidency and these producers that were really mad, Shirley Clawson decided to go to Universal Pictures for a year and learned how to be a cameraman, and only for 1 year. And he came back, and he and his brother Chet started making little films, and Chet was more of the businessman. Okay. And who actually took a chance on them was President Joseph F. Smith. He agreed to be their sponsor, and so they filmed.
Really?
Yep, they formed the Deseret Film Company, and their first little film studio. They moved it later after that, but their film studios was where the Lion House Pantry is. If you've ever been to the Lion House, I mean they've been renovating it for years now, but like if you went in the Lion House before, that was their film studio.
Dude, being an entrepreneur in the
pantry.
early 1900s in Utah was the easiest thing. You just had to say Deseret blank. Like, oh, are we starting a honey company? Deseret Honey Company.
And go to
Oh, are we
Joseph F.
starting a motor corporation? Deseret Motor Corp. Oh, are we
Yes.
going to be filmmakers? Deseret Filmmaking.
Yes, that's right. Yes. So anyway, they got right to work, and Joseph F. Smith was like, yeah, go for it. And so they filmed crowds and apostles and everyday life in Salt Lake City. And it's thanks to the Clawsons that we have, here it is. Yep. So there's the first presidency.
Dude.
And it's thanks to the Clawsons that we have a lot of this footage where we can see some of these early apostles. In fact, the 86th annual conference of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints became the first truly official church film because they filmed it. Now, they didn't film the talks, but they filmed, at least to my knowledge, maybe they did, but like I know they filmed a lot of the crowds outside and the apostles talking. Yeah, so take a look at some of these guys.
Dude,
I can't identify all of them right off the bat, but some of them I can.
So who's this at the beginning?
I believe it's Joseph F. and his two counselors.
Back
I
when
should
men
know
had
this.
real beards.
I mean, look at that. Yeah, and he like a lot of the footage he'd get was Joseph F. Smith driving his automobiles around. Now, because he loved driving in taking rides in automobiles. I have gotten access to this footage before in higher quality by requesting it from the Church History Library and actually like looking at it. It's beautiful. It's preserved really, really well, and there's way more than what's on this little YouTube video. There's the 12. Yeah, and I mean you can see they're right there.
Oh my gosh, look at this.
Now,
dude.
while you're playing that, I want to read a little portion from Randy's BYU Studies
awesome.
article. So it says, over the next decade, the Clawsons worked intensely eventually moving to the basement of the Deseret News building on South Temple and Main Street. So that's where they ended up going after the Lion House. They supplemented their religious work with advertisements, titles, and newsreels. So these are some of the first ones happening there in Salt Lake, and they're kind of leading the charge. But the church films remain their passion. They shot invaluable records of dozens of general authorities on the streets, temple grounds, and in their offices and homes. They recorded Joseph F. Smith's funeral, Boy Scout excursions, monument dedications, parades, conferences, athletic events, picnics, and dozens of other activities and scenic shots in Salt Lake and everywhere else. Virtually nothing escaped their lens. They even filmed President Grant playing golf. Now, this is what is really interesting to me, and I actually wrote a term paper on these guys 10 years ago now, when I was at BYU, which is, I think, this is my pet theory, okay? This is not the other historians necessarily suggesting this, but I think they were intentionally copying the Lumieres a little bit. I think that they were pulling from what had been established and copying that, and I'll get into why I think that in a minute. But to continue with Randy, for the most part, their films were not documentaries, but actualities, short, unpretentious slices of life contained within a single shot. Because of this practice, as well as their two-man studio setup, the Clawson brothers of the 1920s rather resemble France's Lumiere brothers, who are credited with the world's first public film screening on December 28, 1895. Particularly in their aesthetic simplicity combined with documentary richness, and because they, like the Lumiere's employees, operated as cameramen, lab technicians, and distributors for their own pictures. The Clawson's operation was quite similar to the Lumiere's. Usually the church historian's office describes a Clawson picture with words like President Joseph F. Smith close up in front of the temple, removes hat, then glasses, several other examples. Obviously, despite their nonchalance, the Clawsons, like the Lumiere's cameramen, were directing their subjects, treating them as actors, often with multiple takes. So it's not like they were only going around and just filming these guys doing their thing. They would say, "Do it again, and let's get more of a shot." And so they're trying to archive all of this. And having the shots that they some of the shots, and I wrote this in my term paper, which I could give Cardin a link if he wants it, but I use images in my paper that show some of the way they framed their shots were like exact copies of the Lumiere shots, and it does make
as a
me
Los
wonder.
Angelino, that just totally makes sense. That what was going on in
Hey,
Hollywood,
don't pop
what was going on,
Yeah.
what was going on in Hollywood 4 or 5 years ago is like all of a sudden making it into Deseret. Like, I believe that, dude.
Coincidental.
You had to come to LA just to learn how to do it right.
I do believe that though, and actually that's part of that's part of kind of my theory about these guys is I think there was sort of a spiritual legacy. When we were building the Salt Lake Temple, the church sent Truman Angel and also artists to Paris to learn from the greats and then copy and bring back. And one of the tenets of the restored gospel is to embrace truth wherever it's found.
Yeah,
right?
and for better or for worse, because for example, one of the biggest problems that B.H. Roberts had to deal with was the fact that the church was actively trying to send out young men to the best theological schools to go get theology degrees,
right,
or to go get philosophy degrees, to come back and bring the world's truth with them. But sometimes they'd come back as like brainwashed progmos. You know what I'm saying? It was a big problem in like the 1920s and 30s, and some of our first non against the mob tracks, of defending our faith and apologetic tracks were actually instigated because of like people that gone. I believe it was the University of Chicago. There was I think the church sponsored 8 people to go there, and 5 of them came back basically questioning the Trinity or something.
There
like
is
that,
some
right?
great. You're actually right that there's some great interplay between the history of the church in maybe not so much the arts, but definitely the academics.
Well, in the arts, we were
going back
always
and
super
forth.
advanced.
Yeah,
that's why actually right now I feel I'm a little bit disappointed in our church because we are betraying our history. Brigham Young was not allowed to dance and to sing and to do public performances of art growing up. So he actually wanted to make sure that the saints in Salt Lake City had the arts available to them if they
That's
wanted
funny
to.
you say that. I dropped a quote from him from the live stream last night, kind of debating with someone about like whether it's okay to show evil, right? And it's Brigham himself who said like, no, this is useful. You need to learn through theater and somebody else dropped a similar quote.
We were the first to adopt radio. We have the oldest running radio.
Yeah.
To print the Book of Mormon, we used a type of press that had only been around for 2 years. And then by the time Dan Jones was a missionary, he was using modular type, which had been used by no other major religion out there to get thousands of converts in the UK.
Yeah.
Like we've always been very avant-garde on artistic technology.
I kind of wonder if the Clawsons were, maybe it was unconscious, but I tend to think that if it was unconscious, it was part of sort of an ingrained like ethos of how to approach the arts. And this is from my little term paper. I wrote, Shirley Clawson may have been the first to go to Hollywood, only to bring back the knowledge he found and implement it into Utah-based Mormon films. But he certainly wasn't the last. And then you have this exchange. Likewise, Hollywood frequently interacted with and benefited from the Mormons. William W. Hodkinson was a non-Mormon who began exhibiting films in Ogden, Utah in 1907. He soon branched out to Los Angeles and named his company Paramount, whose Mountain Peak logo was probably based on Ogden's Mount Ben Lomond. If you've ever been to Ogden. And
Get out of town, the Paramount logo?
Look that up. Yeah. Yeah, look up the Paramount logo. And we don't know for sure, but Randy proposes this, and here he was living in Utah. And Utah actually played a pretty integral part for a lot of these foundational years in through the first and second wave of like, and maybe even into the third, like being this synthesis of influence.
Dude, let's see what Fox 13 says, bro. Look at this. A piece of Ogden and the Paramount Pictures logo. Uniquely Utah piece of, let's see what they said about this, bro. Hold on a second. Hold on. This would be super, dude, this is Alpha Chad stuff if it's true. Hold on. Of course, we got a commercial coming up here. But... okay. Oh, no. Missed that one. Browser, here we go.
To Utah every year, but a bit of Utah has been showing up on theater screens for more than 100 years now. Fox 13's Todd Tanner explains in this week's Uniquely Utah.
Chances are you've seen this before. But did you know the Paramount Pictures logo is inspired by a mountain in northern Utah?
Okay, I believe it.
Now you know.
Holy smokes.
Now that the news has confirmed it to us.
Wow. Should we? Oh, here, hold on. I'm going to give it 30 more seconds.
Okay.
Hold on.
Stories, and some of them are even true.
Historian Charles Trentleman would know. He was a reporter for the Ogden Standard-Examiner for 35 years.
One of the founders of Paramount Pictures was a guy named William Hodkinson.
There he is.
And he was an Ogden kid.
An Ogden kid who ran a theater chain in Utah before making his mark in Hollywood in 1914.
The story is that Paramount insists that this is true.
Wow.
Mr. Hodkinson pulled out a piece of paper and a pencil and sketched the mountain of his boyhood, which was Ben Lomond.
Wow. So there it is. And then
a little wider in that shot.
Yeah, I was about going to say he must have he mushed it.
He made it for LA.
He gave it a wide angle lens, But, oh wow, okay, you win, bro.
Well, so this is the point that I'm trying to make is that there is a much longer history of Hollywood and Latter-day Saints in Utah influencing each other. And I said Hodkinson's revolutionizing of film distribution grew in part from Utah's enthusiasm over cinema. And this has actually been even true. I did some research on this, several years ago where Utah is one of the leading states in going and watching movies and in going and especially participating in fandom and like going to big premieres.
Furries.
Yeah. Maybe. And he's been described as the man who invented Hollywood. This Hodkinson is. So while Utah's Mormons and California's Hollywood are said by many to have extremely opposing values, in reality, the Clawson brothers and William Hodkinson are just two examples of ways in which the two have influenced and benefited from one another historically. This is by no means a comprehensive history of Mormonism's relationship to Hollywood or filmmaking, but there are a few obvious examples of the positivity of their relationship. Hollywood studios have long looked to Utah as an ideal film location and have enormously benefited from the use of its varied landscape. And this was huge during the Westerns period as well. And there were some great relationships between the studios and the Latter-day Saints. Talented Latter-day Saints have even, in some instances, benefited the entire industry by making their own groundbreaking advances, such as Philo Farnsworth's invention of the television. So he was a Latter-day Saint guy in Idaho, invented the TV. In turn, it would seem that many other filmmakers followed the example of Shirley Clawson and brought lessons learned in Hollywood back to Mormon cinema. Wetzel Whitaker, and this is who was a big part of the Third Wave, we could talk about later, was a prominent Mormon filmmaker who moved from Utah to California in the 1930s to work as an animator for Walt Disney, only to return to Utah later in his life, direct the BYU Motion Picture Studio, and they used some footage from Fantasia and the Temple film, because there was a relationship there between Disney and him. We were talking about Richard Rich a minute ago, Keith Merrill, who directed two of the largest institutional LDS church films. So anyway, if that paper's of interest to you, I propose some theories about like whether or not this is part of the commission to Brigham Young saying all that is good, lovely, and praiseworthy belongs to this church and kingdom. Essentially, them like, let's go learn from the best and bring it back. But sadly, I will say the Clawsons met a rather dramatic end.
No,
to
yeah, I was about to say I don't know.
filmmaking.
It's one of those names where it just doesn't ring a bell in history for me. So what happened to him?
Well, how much do you know about nitrate and film and
Don't.
talk
Did
to
like
the
some
audience.
blow
Wait,
up?
Talk to the audience about what I'm
Talk
talking
to it.
about
Actually,
here.
look in that freezer. In the bottom level of that
Oh, yeah.
freezer. No, actually, you can grab it. You can
should've
get up
told
and
me
grab
that.
it.
You should have told
In
me
the
that.
bottom of that. No, you should grab something, bro. Like literally grab it. All
right.
There's 6 reels in there, okay, that are they're of a film called Ingagi. Actually, it's the film that inspired King Kong, and you'll notice that it smells like potato chips, a little bit acrid in there. You don't see Ziploc bags with reels in them. Oh, okay. That's probably, you can close it then. Just bring me one of the drinks, I guess. Oh no, you want to know why? I dropped them off at Reed Beauvais.
Okay. All right.
You're right. That freezer's empty because they're over at Reed Beauvais. Thanks for the drink.
Explode on me here.
Yeah, but actually I do have other examples in that one, but I'll get it when you're talking.
Yeah. Okay.
Original film was highly explosive.
Yep.
In fact, I'm friends with Hollywood's #1 film restorationist. A friend of mine, phenomenal fellow, was actually a documentary filmmaker in Alaska before starting his film preservation firm. And to this day, he will get filmed to him. He'll get not filmed to him. He'll get reels sent to him, and they get sent submerged in 50-gallon barrels of water.
Yep.
Just so that no oxygen can get to them, because they
Yeah.
were known to spontaneously combust, and they would self-fuel. So as they were burning, they would create their own oxygen from the chemical process of ignition. And so you couldn't put them out by pouring water on them. You would literally just have to let the fire burn out. And so film archive fires were a legitimate concern. And have you ever seen footage of film archive fires?
Yeah, pull it up. I will say,
dude.
while you're doing that, my friend Sophie works for the British Film Institute, and she last time I saw her in London, she told me that they had just recently had a scare where somebody pulled the fire alarm, and they do film preservation there, and they thought it had to do with their building and not somebody else's department. And they all ran out and they were telling people like, "Get out of here! It's gonna blow!"
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it didn't end up being anything. But yeah, I mean, film is explosive. And
well,
you can
before
kinda see
safety
where
film was invented in the 30s.
that's right. Yeah, old film. Sorry, that's what I mean. This kind of film that we restore today, that use nitrate, was very, very flammable, and it still is. If you're working with restoring old film, there are special processes to like Cardin was saying, to deal with them, and so the brothers were working in their studio with all this film all around them, and somehow there was some kind of spark that happened, some kind of ignition that happened in the space, and it erupted into a firestorm. Yep, there we go.
Okay,
it's,
yeah.
nitrate film. And And they quickly tried to. I can't remember if I'm telling this right. I think they tried to save the film, but it all happened very quickly. And I at least know that Chet, the businessman brother, got blown out the window.
What?
Yeah, and it burned his hands. And he felt like he went to the window. It was broken. And he felt like he got catapulted. And Shirley died. He was pulled out of the fire, but he died from suffocation from the smoke.
Look, bro. I'm sorry if your ancestors are the Clawson brothers and they died in that film vault fire, because I'm sure that when it happened, it was tragic.
Yeah.
But damn it, that is one effing awesome way to go out if you're a filmmaker.
Well,
like, dude.
Sadly, too, Shirley was consumed by his own creation, because most of the film got burned. So most of their work.
Though, dog.
Yeah.
My grandpa was a filmmaker so hardcore that he was blown out of a film vault when the fire. Like, that's
true.
not
They
just
went
he
out like
passed
men.
away. He went out like a man with his boots on, baby.
Yeah, that's right. Holding his nitrate film,
dude,
like,
just like-
I'll burn with the. It's kind of Smith Brothers-esque, but anyway,
Dude, I'm doing a freaking biopic on the Clawson brothers.
On the
dude.
Clawsons.
I'm doing it.
Well, so this is interesting. Most of it was lost in the fire, but a lot of it was kind of scattered as well. And Chet. So I'm just going to read this from Randy's article again. It says, and Randy and Gideon, they both did this one. The fire also obviously destroyed a great deal of their work. Chet, the businessman, estimated $10,000 worth of it. And remember, this is in the 20s. What survives generally came from other sources, much of it discovered in odd locations in the ensuing decades, most notably in 1948, when Frank Wise was able to compile a collection of found footage into the film Latter-day Saint Leaders, Past and Present. That might be what we're watching, but if not, you can find all their stuff that we have in the church history library. But here's the interesting part, and I think you'll be interested in this, Cardin, especially with your film preservation, restoration interest.
Yeah.
With luck, more of the Clawsons' footage and the other lost films of the silent era will yet be found. Still, the detail of their surviving prints, records of the personalities and daily functioning of the church for 2 decades, so it might have been the 30s actually, constitutes an invaluable legacy, one that for all the increased pervasiveness of film and media has never quite been repeated in the church. The Clawsons era remains a singular moment in
Now,
LDS
why
history.
was it never repeated? Just because we've never had
I just mean
an individual artist come up and do so much?
Think of how much access look at this. Think of how much access they had. They're hanging out with the apostles. They're hanging out with the First Presidency. They're documenting life in Salt Lake City at a really particular time and place. And they were kind of the church's film guys, you know. They were known. They were invited to events to document these things.
Well, it was also because our church was ran by the priesthood back then. It wasn't ran by the bureaucracy and Orthodox professional. No, I'm telling you, I have this theory that, like, the church was created in 1977 by Spencer W. Kimball because we gotten big enough that we had a good problem. The priesthood now needed professional assistance. Okay? And so Spencer W. Kimball starts a church office building in 1977 as an apparatus to basically give assistance to the priesthood. But now the question is the apparatus giving assistance to the priesthood, or is the priesthood giving its assistance to the apparatus, right? Because when your bureaucracy gets so big and your leaders get so, I'm sorry, this is unpopular, and I get it, but elderly, that you know they're relying upon assistance. Okay, I mean, if you're having apostles, and this is not to besmirch them or say that if you're old you can't be a spiritual guide or anything like that, but if you have at any given time 4 of your 12 apostles walking around in walkers, wheelchairs, unable to read off teleprompters because their vision is failing so precipitously, you know that they're getting propped up by who? Well, propped up by people whose job it is to prop it up. And they're probably great and wonderful and worthy people, but they're not apostles. They don't have priesthood keys. They don't have stewardship. They don't have, that mantle that falls upon you when you're leading that takes a physical toll. And just like we say, like, it's unpopular, but Joe Biden really shouldn't be running for president. Like, it's a tough job. But like pre-1977, that kind of wasn't a problem. Like,
Well-
you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, well, also-
they just made decisions, went with him, and they said, if we want to embrace film, we're going to embrace film. You're following me wherever I go. What's your name? Clawson? Cool. Don't die in a fire. Bring your camera. Let's go.
I think there's another element to consider too, which is simply that the church is so massive now. I mean, there was a BYU devotional I heard once from President Monson where he was telling stories about all the leaders he remembered.
Did you say massive?
Yeah, the church is massive. It's enormous.
That's also a Gen Z meme. Second only to 6'7", but all right.
It's massive.
Yeah, when your daughter
Gen Z,
hits 12,
you can't
like my
steal
son has hit
all
12.
my terms. I'm still going to use the word massive.
Okay,
President Monson tells this story about a deacon going into President David O. McKay's office, saying, "Hey, will you present on the restoration of the priesthood Sunday?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do it." You know, so just everything was way more informal in those days, and there's something really charming and kind of just so different about such a gigantic. Church and institution that was different in these times. There's one other thing I want to read from the BYU Studies article. It says the Clawson brothers would become the driving force of silent Mormon cinema, setting the stage for everything that has come since. If any one man deserves to be called the father of Mormon movies, it is Shirley Clawson.
Really?
Yeah, he kind of started the Latter-day Saint. Participation in this, because part of why it's called a wave, Cardin, is that there were other films going on as well. So there are some pretty famous anti-Mormon films from the first wave of Mormon cinema.
Okay.
And this is
Trapped by the Mormons?
Yes, Trapped by the Mormons, A Victim of the Mormons, A Mormon Maid. You know, they all just they're like
There's
variations.
more. I've only heard of Trapped by the Mormons.
Yeah, no, these were big, and it's so interesting how much the first wave kind of parallels what we're seeing today now. In that the Latter-day Saint sort of mystery and intrigue was a major component for dime novels and kind of horror, spooky movies and entertainment.
Look at this. A 1911 drama, A Victim of the Mormons.
Yes, and there was a belief that
Oh, it's another Danish silent film, because Trapped by the Mormons was a Danish silent film.
This stuff was really big at the time, and there was a belief that Latter-day Saint missionaries were like vampires and had vampiric powers and would come and seduce the women of other countries and bring them back to Utah.
Wow.
And you know, this was a major fear for the men in these other countries. That's like, don't let the Mormons in.
All these
because
handsome,
they have
devils.
They have this power to just stare, and with their vampire powers, brainwash you and bring you back. And so this was a big part of the first wave, is the anti-Mormon sentiment in movies, and that it was very exploitative. You could almost call it a maybe Mormon exploitation approach, and so you had the Latter-day Saints that were making this more kind of documentary style. They tried The Life of Nephi. It didn't really do great. It was supposed to be the first in a series. Some of you may remember that there was the exact same attempt. History repeats itself with the Book of Mormon movie that was supposed to be the first in a series,
where they had a misspelled title.
and
do you remember the opening title was misspelled?
I was a kid so I don't remember.
It was so bad.
But yeah, this has been attempted a few different times, and that the Latter-day Saints were doing a trip to Salt Lake City, and actually, I don't know if this one was that's a fiction film with Mormon content, but the 100 Years of Mormonism, that's what I'm thinking of, and a theatrical feature film created by the church, right? And so we're responding sort of with the early versions of Meet the Mormons and to the proverbial American primeval of the time. Oh yeah, which one is this?
This is A Victim of the Mormons.
Victim of the Mormons.
Mormonins. Production, or I don't even know how to pronounce it, but here it is. Let's go to the middle right here, dude.
Yeah, A Trip to Salt Lake City, forgive me, is not 100 Years Mormonism. This Trip to Salt Lake City is a satire on polygamy that was made during the Reed Smoot Senate hearing. So they were making fun of us for, surely there's still polygamy happening. And I mean, to be fair, there was. But this is around the time when that anti-Mormon sentiment was so intense that the church changed in a lot of ways in the 1920s.
Wow, this is incredible.
Yeah. So this was the first wave. It was the silent film era, and kind of kickstarted the things that were to come later. So I don't know what the interest is in the chat. I can't see it. But
here. Well, no. You know, you thanks for reminding me.
Could
I'm
go on
actually
to the second
pull it up
wave.
Right now. Okay. So right now, Rafterman just gives us one super chat. Just empty super chat. Thank you very much, Rafterman. As well as we've got another one right here. Another quick super chat. Let me put this up.
We're geeking out
for the.
Why is this boring?
Let me put this up for the guys.
But we love it.
Yeah.
And Cardin, we're going to go
great.
find that missing footage for.
Oh, you better believe your bottom dollar
of the Clawson
bro.
brothers.
We're going to go find this.
We should go on a hunt.
Then, Brian Koopman, 7230, just joined the Ward Radio Wigwam. Everyone would like to welcome Brian to the chat. Please put a W. I mean, welcome Brian to the Ward Radio Wigwam. Please put a W in the chat. So, Brian. Also, everybody, make sure you guys like the stream. Thank you, guys. Hey, we're just having a fun Sunday here.
Yeah.
My audience isn't used to a hangout stream on a Sunday. So.
Well, these are the church movies. Church movies we're talking about. Trapped by the Mormons. Victim.
This is crazy.
Yes.
Man.
Yeah, that's right.
This is absolutely insane. Okay, so continue, man. Continue.
Okay, well, so after the first wave, that gets us to the second wave. Okay, and the second wave it becomes much more dramatic and interesting. There are better relationships, like I talked about with my in my paper, that Hollywood and Mormondom, the Latter-day Saint kind of culture that was so fixated or kind of fixed in Utah at the time, start to influence each other in more positive ways. And so it's in this wave that you actually do get the first commercial feature film that was completed in 1931 with sound called Corianton, A Story of Unholy Love. And this was an epic. Oh my
gosh, what's the name of it?
This was an epic. Corianton, A Story of Unholy Love, about 90 minutes. And it was recently restored at BYU by Ben Harry, who's been restoring all of these old film prints into 4K. And I actually went and saw it in the theater when it played at BYU. But this was a large-scale theatrical adaptation of a play based on a Book of Mormon story. I think that B.H. Roberts did some rendition of it somewhere in there. And there's a guy named Orestes Bean. There's a great book called Corianton that kind of gives the provenance of this story.
It's like Laurence Olivier.
Yeah, yes. And this was really interesting. It was based on what they called at the time the Sex and Sand model. And so like this was sort of the model that fueled that. They were like, the great
like Lawrence of Arabia,
that's right.
like Aladdin,
that's exactly
like
what they
the
were
Ten Commandments.
That's exactly what they were kind of going for. Is they're like, Corianton is our story that fits that genre, the big kind of bombastic set pieces of the time. And something that's pretty interesting to note with Corianton that demonstrates how different our film sensibilities are today and how they've changed over time is, first of all, the Tabernacle Choir was featured in Corianton, and they sing when the prophet Alma, who's a big long beard, comes down, and it's kind of this, and the Tabernacle Choir's there. They had to go through lots and lots and lots of processes, even then, to get the Tabernacle Choir to be able to be in the film. But the General Authority signed off on it.
The Mormon Tabernacle Choir was put into a commercially successful Hollywood film.
It's successful. That
commercially
is more
viable.
Yes, it probably could have been successful, but the timing with the Depression and also the timing with how the finances were handled.
They were put in a Hollywood film.
It was a catastrophe. Oh yeah, I mean this was a full, big production, and they were excited about it. The other thing that's interesting to note is that audiences of this time had different sensitivities than Latter-day Saint audiences today. So the twice when BYU has shown this film, they've had to put an advisory because there have been audience members.
Was it nudity?
That have
Because in the 20s, nudity, pre-code nudity was like rampant.
It was a little bit. It wasn't rampant nudity, but yes, the woman who plays Isabel wears a sheer dress, and I mean it's there. And then in the scene with the
wait, in a Mormon film,
yes, with the Tabernacle Choir.
With the Tabernacle Choir in it, there was a chick in a sheer dress, kind of like in Metropolis, where
yes,
you just see through it.
That's
and
right.
She's basically
and
nude.
also in the scene, why am I not thinking of the right word? Where all the prostitutes are. They are
brothel.
The brothel.
Okay.
Yes, in the brothel.
Love me a brothel. Good brothel.
Yeah, there's some there's a little bit of nudity in that, and both times that this has been shown. There's had to be a little bit of an advisory, kind of helping people understand that the sensitivities and the tastes of the day, it really is cultural. It fluctuates, and I think the reason they were comfortable with it is because they were not portraying it, they were not glorifying it. They were showing it as like, oh, this is a depiction of wickedness, and and the woman that Corianton ends up with is very modest, and kind of reflects some of the sensibilities of the day then. And so it's just really fascinating to look at. Another film that came out during the second wave was Brigham Young in 1940. And this was the first large-scale positive Hollywood film on Mormon subject matter. In fact, you can.
Wait, it was positive?
Yes, you can watch this today, and it's pretty interesting. It's good. Yeah, look up Brigham Young 1940, and what's really interesting about it is it had.
Oh no, this is the one with Vincent Price.
Yes,
right?
Vincent Price is in it.
That's
right. Vincent Price plays
so
Joseph Smith.
So now we're caught
You're
up.
caught up to
where,
probably where you would have heard.
Where I've heard of things.
Some of this.
Okay.
Yes, that's right. And Vincent Price plays Joseph Smith. And at the time, the church was really working hard to kind of integrate into the mainstream culture.
Because they were still browbeat by the Smoot hearings?
Yeah, that's right. That was, and we talked about this with our shame episode, where I think this all intersects and influences each other. But yeah, Brigham Young was like really helped establish, if you feel like the pioneer heritage, it was an American heritage, and it's like the American pioneers founded the West and the Latter-day Saints. Like a lot of that was coming from this time period, establishing this kind of myth. It's a true story, but like really making it like the American frontier, and these guys just wanted to practice their religious freedom. All true, but Brigham and Heber C. Kimball and Wilford Woodruff definitely were not feeling like theirs was an American story. They were like, we have to get away, and these guys are settling the West. So kind of fascinating. You also have Wagon Master by director John Ford. And this is a classic Hollywood Western, noted for its very humanistic portrayal of Latter-day Saints. So this is very different from the first wave that is so like exoticizing of Latter-day Saints. This is where directors are looking at us with a little bit more nuance and a little bit more compassion, and like, the Mormons are an interesting people. And then there's a few others that came out during this time that are significant, but perhaps the most significant is in 1955. This is where we get the Temple Endowment film. So this is when film begins, and the process around that.
And this is all second wave, right?
This is all second wave.
Okay.
The process around that being influenced by what we as Latter-day
Okay, I'm
Saints
looking
were
up that
learning
one
about
on YouTube
film.
as well. Let's see if that one shows up.
Thankfully, Mike Norton didn't sink his teeth into that one. But this is the first introduction of film to temple worship, which was revolutionized by Latter-day Saint temple construction and placement, and ultimately church demographics across the globe. And there's a singular figure, Cardin, who helped shape and was over the kind of communications and temple film experiment, if you will, until it became what it became in his day, and his name happens to be Gordon B. Hinckley, and so that is who helped shape.
I knew I liked Gordon B.
Yeah, that's right. And
I know he was over PR and making the
yes, but part of his kind of brainchild and personal passion and focus and project was perfecting the use of film in temple liturgy. So anyway, it's really interesting. And not a lot of people know that we have the first large-scale theatrical Book of Mormon movie in 1931, and you can watch it. And you know what? It's watching it restored. I watched it unrestored, and I was like, they were trying their best. But when I went and saw it on a big screen, restored in 4K, it was beautiful. Like it was good. It moved me. You know.
Which one was this again?
Corianton.
Corianton.
When Corianton. When I saw it on a big screen, actually, I think Jasmine Rapley might have been there, or maybe she was at the other one, because I saw a lot of people within kind of the Latter-day Saint culture scene come to some of these 4K restorations, and Ben Harry has been doing such a good job. You'd really like Ben, by the way, if you love film restoration.
I love this man already.
He's doing great.
He could
work
be a raging
at
progmo, and I don't care.
If you love film restoration and happen to be a student, go talk to Ben Harry. And our friend that we just met the other night at In-N-Out is doing that at Warner Brothers. They're restoring all these old films that they have recorded 35 millimeter nitrate, and they're putting them on. Actually, what resolution was he telling us they had? It was like 12K, something like that.
For which kind of restoration?
Your friend who is works for Warner Brothers.
Oh,
and they're
that's kind of a little bit rough, because this is also where things get misleading. Hold on. Actually, talk for 2 seconds, and I'll go. I'm going to tell you why 12K is misleading.
Okay. So why is this important, right? Like why would I dig into this stuff as a filmmaker, especially if you watched our episode last night, where I got some pushback in the comments, which I totally expected. First of all, we need to understand that there is a heritage that's a lot older than the sensibilities and the feelings around Latter-day Saint cinema today. And the first wave is especially important because we can see how much Latter-day Saints ought to have a presence in representing themselves in cinema. Like, we have the history, and we have the training, and we have the we have so much passion and talent. For me, the lesson from the second wave and the takeaway is that, like, through Corianton, you can see that our obsessions culturally around ratings and around theme and around, like, what is or isn't appropriate, or, like, what some of the questions that I got was like, why would you make a horror film? It's not right to do so. It's like that's fine, but Brigham Young's saying something else when it comes to the theater, and Corianton, which was a real cultural touchstone of its day, is demonstrating something else in terms of, and as Latter-day Saints, these things, they evolve, right? Doctrine doesn't evolve, but culture does, or doctrine, we have the core fundamentals, but how we understand doctrine, how we engage with things like caffeine or movie ratings or dancing. I don't know if you know this, Cardin, but Joseph Smith hated dancing, and Emma would throw dances in the mansion house, and he would go lock himself upstairs because he was like, it just is inappropriate. It's just dancing is inappropriate.
Shut up, really?
Yeah, oh yeah. And
Brigham, don't make me think any less of the man.
Brigham loved dancing. Brigham was like, it inspires the saints, and so they did so as they crossed the
Brigham Young just got cooler than Joseph Smith. I didn't think that was possible.
Well, and then as the Latter-day Saints settled Salt Lake City, dancing at all became questionable. It's like, should we stick with dancing? And as they became more socially conservative, the Deseret News, I think, at one point called it a a vertical expression of a horizontal desire, and so dancing was just not appropriate, especially between a man and a woman. And then of course now BYU has had a nationally recognized dance program. So when you learn history, you begin, especially in a specific field, you can begin to understand the differences between your own sensitivities and your own kind of cultural snapshot, if you will, and then how different eras and generations of Latter-day Saints, just to use us as an example, have navigated these things, and the culture is continually changing. So maybe what might have been culturally unacceptable 20 or 30 years ago in terms of storytelling, just because we were uncomfortable with it, is necessary today. You can totally see it with the apologetics online. Like we're doing things and trying things that we haven't before, and I just find that really, really fascinating and powerful. And as defenders of the faith, we would make the same argument about presentism, right? Presentism is judging past generations by your own standards. We don't like that when that happens to our historical figures. We don't love that when that happens to sacred figures that we venerate. In the same way, let's not use presentism to define every possible minutia of how we should or shouldn't engage with arts or academics or the humanities, and I feel very strongly about that, because you can see precedent for it. Now, please don't mistake me. I'm not suggesting that anything goes by referencing that Corianton had. They were more comfortable with the depictions of this sheer dress and some nudity.
I was about going to say, I was thinking we're going to bring this back, dude.
I'm simply saying.
Now you going all prude on me?
I am simply saying that it's important to be prayerful and trust the Holy Ghost as a Latter-day Saint, storyteller, but also notice this around you, that if we are so highly sensitive to anything and everything without context, and with at BYU we learned that it's there's a difference between the representation of something and the advocacy of something.
Look, you made a dirty horror film and your parents' friends got embarrassed. Don't be mad about it, all right? Just accept it, repent, and move on.
It is me feeling this way, actually, that inspired me to make something. I don't care if people don't like it. That's fine. I'm sharing this because, to me, this demonstrates that I think sometimes as Latter-day Saints we get so hung up on representation that it's it represents something bad, that we miss whether it's advocating for it or not.
Yes.
And if you can represent something like war, if you've ever heard the argument that it's you're going to get desensitized. You're going to desensitize watching all that violence. I would ask you if you know anyone who's ever been desensitized by watching Saving Private Ryan. Are they desensitized to war? I think that anyone I've ever met who has watched 1917 or Saving Private Ryan
wants to avoid it at all costs.
Oh, exactly. That's right, because it's the shock of the thing. What desensitizes us are the lower ratings that kind of normalize and make it fun and funny, and if you're going to be fair, that's what desensitizes you. I think it was, I don't know if this is still true, but Guardians of the Galaxy 2 had the highest on-screen kill or death count of any movie to that point. When it came out. Now, I'm not telling you not to watch Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm just saying.
That's funny. Whoever thought Chris Pratt was on it?
I think it was the guy that, he whistles and the arrow goes around. Latter-day Saints love Marvel movies per capita. And if you're going to make an argument for what desensitizes you to death, if that surprises you, it might just beg the question of representation versus advocacy. And I think that's really, really important in how we engage with the arts.
So now I feel stupid even just bringing this up.
Oh, no. Yeah, go back to that. Sorry.
My
diatribe.
Your diatribe's awesome. Basically, just for the audience here.
Oh, look at that.
There's an 8mm right there, not even Super 8. Your grandparents will remember Super 8. Your great-grandparents will remember 8mm, standard 8. Actually, even your aunts and uncles remember standard 8. That actually existed for a long time. I remember shooting on that in the 80s, even with my grandpa. And then here's 16mm. double perf 16 millimeter right here. Hold on, let's see if we can
Get
get
in
that.
focus.
Where the camera gets in focus. I got to cover up my face. If I look away from the camera,
You put your hand. Yeah, there. Put your hand over your face. Yeah, that.
There
it
we
is.
go.
Yeah,
Money.
There it is.
So there you can see all the individual frames and everything. And the reason why, so it's cool that they can scan in 12K, but the truth is, an image this size, less than a ½ inch, is only going to resolve on screen through a picture to about the equivalent of 480, at best 720p. 16 millimeter is going to result in basically an HD image. It's not until you get like 35 millimeter that you can really get, 4K imagery.
Mm-hmm.
And like IMAX is like 12K. It's nice to overscan just because then you have more information to work with, and then maybe even some going from like 6K to a 12K scan is really not going to result in that much of a difference.
Right.
Other than you're somewhat future proofing.
Mm-hmm. Which is what they're doing.
Which I
Warner
assume
Brothers.
is what they're trying to do.
Yeah, that's right. Because who knows what's going to happen. But listen, again, I want to repeat Cardin's invitation. If you can find Clawson Brothers, like film reels, let him know. Let us know, because we're gonna go on a hunt for these things, and we'll restore them. We'll either contact Ben Harry or your friend. What's his name?
It's Reflex Studios. Actually, here I'll show you what we do. Do you want to see what we do?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to see if I can.
because it's through you that
I'm
you do
actually
this.
going to see if I can.
Now, while you're doing that, if people are enjoying this, I can go on to the third wave.
Oops, sorry. I keep going. No, it just started autoplay.
Or we can wrap up here and save it for another time. The third, fourth, and fifth waves of Mormon Cinema. And
oh man.
Yeah.
How long would it take us?
I can kind of fly through these if you want me to.
Okay,
the fifth wave will take longer, and it's the most fraught.
I have a feeling I'm going to get angry. Let me just show you what we're doing then really fast first.
Go ahead.
And then once we actually see what we're doing, here is here's just the media player that I'm just going to put forward. This is my Ngagi film. Watch, check this out. I'm actually going to turn off the I'm going to turn off the sound here. So this is my boy, over at Reflex Studios, and this is actually a film that we're working on restoring. And I'm actually just going to show you a couple of the pictures. So when you see this, like, your mind is going to be blown. So
I need to see this in action.
Yeah. Oh, you're going to see it. So here we go. I found the only known 16 millimeter copy of a film called Ngagi, which is the film that inspired King Kong. All right. And this is what it looks like when it was on the reel. Now, it was literally what we call potato chipped. Okay. Look at that reel.
Oh no.
That's not going through, that's not getting back on the roll, let alone getting put through a projector, right? So I take it over to my boy, Reed, okay? And this is him at his little studio. It's pretty awesome, okay? And he does this with it. And by the way, watching him work, it's like just a fat kid in a candy shop. I mean... it's like it's so cool. Yeah, you never heard that one before.
I've
it's like a fat kid in a candy shop. Yeah. So he takes it, and the very first thing he did is basically he came up with this really good idea. He said, you know what? Film is a natural, it's an organic material, just like our skin. Okay, if you look at this, if I get a cut on my skin, I can take Neosporin and I can put it on that cut. And then I can put a Band-Aid on that cut, and then hopefully that Neosporin will make the skin more pliable and it will heal faster. Well, why can't I use that same ethos to this organic material as well?
Right.
The celluloid, which is kind of the papery material that's put on, it actually comes from the cellulose of trees. Cellulose is what makes paper stiff. Okay, so this right here is just like film in the sense that it comes from celluloid. And then... the gelatin that keeps the silver nitrate on, which is the thing that you expose when you expose the shot, that comes from the hooves of horses, the same thing used to make Jell-O, basically. Okay, so all of these ingredients, except for the silver nitrate itself, they're all organic. So he develops this compound that he can soak and bathe the film reels in, and he does it under pressure actually. And so it gets literally injected into the film, restores just enough pliability.
That is so crazy.
Yeah, restores just enough pliability. All right, that, and check this out. This is really gonna blow your mind. That he can do the following. So I'm actually just gonna put this up here.
Show, don't tell.
And show you. Yeah. So hold on. Media player. Here we go. Boom. So basically, look at this. We take the film.
Yeah.
After it's been washed, okay? He puts it through here it is. After it's been taken off of the reel, and sometimes you literally have to like unscrew the reel.
Yeah.
Look at that. He's putting it on a split reel, okay? And then running it through this machine sprocketless scanner that he built himself by hand. Built by hand. I'm not kidding you.
That
okay?
is so interesting.
And then look at this. When it goes through the machine, okay? Hold on. Look at the decay that is on each one of those frames.
Wow. I mean,
look at that.
Seems like unsalvageable.
Unsalvageable. That, all right? That you're seeing right here.
Okay.
Okay. That
I'm ready.
Was literally.
My body is ready.
That was literally this only 3 days earlier. That turned into, let me go back there, this. Isn't that insane?
That's crazy.
So anyway, he goes and he puts it through, and then look at the images we're pulling off this thing, bro. Look at the images we're pulling off this thing. I mean, this is before the de-artifacting. This is before AI gets a hold of it. Look at that.
Wow.
That's a jungle film.
Yeah.
All right. So, like, that is what you're able to, like, I was told by countless people that we're never going to get another image off of it.
Can't be done.
Like actual restorationists.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, and it looked like literally this only days before. So, I mean, it's crazy what you can do now with the technology and some ingenuity.
Right.
But, yeah. So the whole thing's only we're scanning at 4K though because it's 16 millimeter.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thanks for sharing that. That's really interesting, and it goes to show if we can go on a quest and find some old reels, we can restore them. You know.
Oh, dude,
we have the technology.
Man, I wonder if anybody's done. Okay, in the chat, I got to know: has anybody done their genealogy, and are you related?
Yeah. Who are you? Where are you?
Are you related to the Clawsons? Do we have
Where's our Clawson?
Do we have any relatives of the Clawsons in the chat? I'm looking at the live chat right here. Okay, so hold on.
And have we lost everyone?
But no, we haven't lost everybody.
Okay.
They've been slowly coming to the chat.
Okay, because we can
keep going
hundred
of them
with the third and fourth.
Also, I did a little poll real
fast. It gets more dramatic.
I did a poll, okay, and I asked the audience. I said, "Have you ever heard of the Clawson brothers before this?"
Uh-huh.
And 90% of them had said no.
I believe
so it looks
man.
like we got work to do.
I believe it. Yeah. And thank you again. If you're joining us, please read the work of that. Like, this is an overview. They're fantastic pieces. BYU Studies did a book called Mormons in Film, and everything in it you can look it up. And this is from the very large article by Randy Astle and Gideon Burton, which is called the 5 Waves of Mormon Cinema. If you look up the 5 Waves of Mormon Cinema, you will you'll see it. And so Randy Astle also wrote a full book that's Mormon Cinema Origins to 1952. But I just like calling it Origins because it feels like a movie, you know, like a movie title. But if you're interested in this kind of thing, read the history. It's really, really interesting. And also look up Mason Kamana Allred. He has written about Latter-day Saint media and film and history. And he and Randy, when we get to the fourth wave, have some different like filmmakers that they highlight, and so it gets really interesting, and then of course it all converges at the fifth wave.
Just give us
All right,
the overview.
The third wave,
we got another 10, 15 minutes.
So the third wave, the main name of the game of the third wave of Mormon cinema is Wetzel Whitaker, otherwise known as Judge Whitaker. And you, if you're watching in the chat, are now going to become even more familiar with some of these pieces. And so if you have these kind of fathers of each wave of LDS cinema, okay, and and Wetzel Whitaker, like his contribution cannot be understated. He made films like he directed so many films for the church, for the institutional church. So this is when the church really gets into the game of making films. So he directs a film called Windows of Heaven, which is a landmark BYU production on the payment of tithing, and it was one of the studio's most popular films.
Oh,
yes,
I watched that.
Yep, I know.
It's the one with
Lorenzo Snow.
Lorenzo Snow
Yes.
also sitting down and praying, and that the brothers and the sisters would have opened
Yes.
the windows of heaven.
Yes, because that was a problem at the time. The church was so poor during that era of Lorenzo Snow, and so it's like we needed, we had to come together. Judge Whitaker, that was his nickname, Judge Whitaker, Wetzel Whitaker, he makes this film about that to kind of help inspire the members about the principle of paying tithing. And then just a year later, he directs Man's Search for Happiness in 1964. So 63, then 64. This was the defining film for the church's institutional use of film for propagandizing purposes. And propaganda is sometimes seen as this dirty word.
No, I'm an
propaganda
Edward
can be-
Bernays fan,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
We just need to embrace the
Right,
propaganda.
yeah. If you know film history, then I didn't even mention the Soviet, film history and how the Soviets got really, really good at mastering the art of the propaganda film and the techniques and the church. There it is, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. When it produces media, the media is propaganda. I think it's always fascinating when people kind of call on the church to make better films or more nuanced films. I think it's incredible that we have
No,
as good
we
of
need
movies.
them to be amazing propagandists.
Yes,
the
that's right.
church needs to propagandize like
Right.
crazy, and it doesn't.
Yes, the church has made some phenomenal films that still would qualify as propaganda, and that happens especially in the fourth wave, Legacy in the Testaments and the Joseph Smith film, and
So
I
that's
had
the
problems
fourth
with
wave.
those.
Huh?
Well, yeah, that's
so what's
right,
the difference between the third and the fourth?
Okay,
wave?
so the third wave is and actually no, some of those come right on the edge of the fourth and the fifth, and I'll explain how they're defined. But the the third wave was really, really dominated by these films by Judge Whitaker and the church producing more direct propaganda, and that's what dominated this time period. He did Come Back, My Son, which I think got restored just recently by Ben Harry. He did Johnny Lingo, if you've ever seen Johnny Lingo, so that's 1969. And then at the same time, you have Hollywood in the 60s making a switch back to a less positive portrayal of Latter-day Saints. Maybe not negative and exploitative in the same way, but a little bit more the Mormons and their prudishness. You get Paint Your Wagon, which is very interesting. 1969, Polyandry puts a comic twist on the Mormon element of this well-known musical Western, and so Polyandry is this woman that ends up having two husbands, and then you also get you get films like this is really interesting. This was not necessarily a negative depiction. I'm not going to say this right. I don't speak German. Malzeiten. The English name for it is Lust for Love. Okay, and this is actually coming from the new German cinema. And it's a Mormon-themed existential drama on the cusp of new German cinema and reflecting the changing cinematic view of Mormonism. So this is your first example of something that I really think is valuable, which is, again, to use that word that I'm not going to let get bastardized, nuance, right? It's a nuanced view of Latter-day Saints through German new cinema. It's about this couple that joined the church, and it kind of, now this, just a heads up, I think you'll be okay scrolling through this, but I mean, this has straight up nudity all over it, because this is a
dude. That's what I was hoping.
German,
for the art,
German
bro.
new cinema. Oh, and it's a good film
for the art.
It's
but some of the European nudity, it's like it's kind of not exactly what you were excited about.
The German Malseiten is very, very interesting in the way that and it did kind of cause a stir in West Germany. Because it was tackling this subject matter, but it wasn't highly critical. It was this exploration of a family that joins the church because the promise of these American missionaries is so positive, and then
I can see why you're a little bit concerned, because check this out. There's Head On, Heart of Glass, and then it is not the homosexual who is perverse, but the society in which he lives, followed by then Lust for Love.
It's very, you're
Strange
entering
bedfellows.
You're entering film world now, This is another important one, because you have living filmmakers who were part of this, even this what's called the classical era, Judge Whittaker in the classical era. So it's kind of the early 50s to the mid 70s, and these waves do cross over. But Robert Starling directed a short film called Ice Cream and Elevators, and this romantic comedy inaugurated student filmmaking.
Robert Starling?
Yes, he's
been in my studio.
Yeah, Robert Starling's on. You should have him talk about Alma, and there he is.
Wait. So Robert Starling did Ice Cream
and the Visionaries.
And Elevators?
I've gone and hung out with him, and he was just a young buck at the time, but he directed. I think co-directed actually with a guy named Dean Stubbs. But Dean Stubbs and Robert Starling directed Ice Cream and Elevators, and this was like. And I think this is. I don't know if this has been. I think this maybe has been restored too. Like, you should have Ben Harry on to talk about all this stuff, because he's doing incredible work. Also, The Church in Action. So you can tell I'm a nerd for this stuff.
I think he might have mentioned something about this before, but just me being behind this live stream desk is like trying to drink water from a fire hose. Okay.
Now, this is called the classical era because it's in the era of classic Hollywood, and it's using those elements, and these are larger productions. Then in the fourth wave, this is where you move into the mass media era, and this is 1974 to 2000. This does include full feature films, but this is where the church, man, kicks it into high gear in terms of how they are going to depict themselves, because you also have other films kicking it into high gear, like a special little film called The Godmakers. So The Godmakers is sort of the antagonistic outsider approach to filmmaking approach that is a mass media type approach of filmmaking to Mormonism. And why is it the mass media era? Because this is when mass media is becoming more of a thing. When we've seen all this stuff from the third wave because of the mass media era. But in the fourth wave, where a lot of millennials grew up, this is where you have The Godmakers. This is where you have a film by Keith Merrill, Mr. Kruger's Christmas, and it's like the quintessential Latter-day Saint Christmas film. This is with Jimmy Stewart, man, and this creates a really good relationship between Jimmy Stewart and the church, and it's a high point in the church's efforts to reach a broad audience. So this is when they start shifting toward a broader audience too. This is when they make the First Vision, the 1976 edition of the First Vision, and this is like, we're going to finally depict the First Vision and get it out to the members. Cypher in the Snow.
I remember Cypher in the Snow, bro.
The Homefront spots is during this era, and you're going to meet older filmmakers who were part of this legacy, right? This is the long-running public service announcement series by Bonneville Communications, among
Family,
the church's
isn't it about time?
Yeah, it's part of that kind of that mass media. Let's see, what else do you get during this? You get some of my favorite films produced by the church. The Lamb of God,
Lamb of God was great.
It's fantastic. It's visual
hasn't been done
storytelling.
as well since then until the Bible videos.
I kind of agree. The Lamb of God has this extra cut, this other cut called "To This End Was I Born." I prefer The Lamb of God, 1993. Arguably the church's most lavish biblical production until the Bible videos, which were kind of a continuation of maybe
And before actors
YouTube
started
era.
becoming progmos and going inactive after everything they filmed.
That has the leaving the church especially after being in a temple film has been there's a long legacy.
Yeah,
to that.
rage quitting over dumb things is like...
If you've ever seen Mountain of the Lord, that came out during this era, and Legacy. This is when the Testaments, which I think might be the best film produced by the church, was released. And the Testaments...
Really?
The Testaments marks the sort of transition, the end of the mass media era and the transition into the fifth wave of Latter-day Saint cinema. And this is what the fifth wave of Latter-day Saint cinema is.
So here's
kind
Mountain
of
of the Lord. This isn't fifth wave. I don't want to confuse
No,
the
this is
users,
fourth.
but
We're still in
this
fourth.
Is fourth.
We're all in
Okay,
fourth,
cool,
right?
Cool. Yeah.
He's
Anything that can be found on VHS, we can safely say is fourth wave.
Yeah. If you grew up with like the family home evening VHS kit, and watched The Pump, don't prime the pump, don't go drinking any first. And,
I was about to say, it sounds like a strange variation on The Little Factory.
It's not, definitely not that. It's definitely not that.
Okay.
No. If in the chat, if you saw The Pump, if you watched, if you took American Heritage from any of the, CES schools and watched A More Perfect Union, America Becomes a Nation. This is the longest film ever produced by the church and represents the pinnacle of secular educational purposes of BYU. This is kind of the era of the motion picture studio, man. Like this was, well, actually, the third wave especially was using the motion picture studio, the MPS, which is still around, but both of these really pumped these out. There's a film called Together Forever. One of the actors in Together Forever was actually in my ward growing up because they were actors. It was like filmed like a documentary, but they're all actors.
Okay.
Funny. How Rare a Possession. Okay, so like this is the stuff where either ironically or unironically someone will throw it on, and then we can move on to the fifth and kind of I think we've entered a sixth now, but I'll let the historians decide whether that's the case.
The Ellis epoch.
Yeah, but when this was written, the fifth wave was kind of 2000 to present. Now, let me explain what makes the fifth wave of Mormon cinema so different. Excuse me. And so dominant in how you think of Mormon cinema when you hear that term, or Latter-day Saint cinema, is this was the beginning of approaching Latter-day Saints as a viable market. Okay, this had been tried with Corianton. It did not work. This had been tried, and then you get some independent, films. Oh, you know what? I didn't talk about this other part of the fourth wave where one other really important filmmaker was doing work during the mass media era. And this was...
Richard Dutcher?
Richard Dutcher is kind of who kicks off the fifth wave. It's Jose Oliveira, because he's over in Spain making his Spanish horror films, and it's Mason Allred who places him, I think, in the third or fourth. He might be in the third or fourth wave, and so he's out there doing this film called first Beware of Darkness and then The Devil, the Dead, and the Flesh, and he's a stake president in Spain, and these just got restored in 4K, and they're wild. They're the first one is about what's it called? When you're summoning spirits.
A seance?
A seance.
Okay.
They're doing this seance, and it connects with spirits on the other side of the veil, and
dude,
and
I'm loving it.
They're dealing with whether they know they're dead or not, and then The Dead, the Devil, and the Flesh is his masterpiece, which in fact you can look those up and put the trailers up while we're talking about this. Some filmmaker friends and I we got to do an interview with Jose before he passed away just this past year. So there's the dead, the devil in the flesh. And he really gets into, like, again, back to my point about the different sensitivities. He's a Spanish filmmaker. He's a stake president, beloved by the church, beloved in Spain. And he does this film that's like all about
Los
bodies
muertos,
and
la carne y el diablo.
yeah, about like death and our bodies and sex and addictions and like how Lucifer like influences us to be slaves to our bodies rather than in control of them. And this guy goes to the spirit world and he meets this escort named Alma, and Alma takes him through and sees all the spirits like dancing. It's got a whole like dance sequence. It's awesome. It's in English, but you'll love this. He wanted it to be in English, so they shot it in English and then he dubbed it in English. And so all of it is this like dubbed audio.
Look at this.
Which
This is crazy. Look at this freaking description right here. The Dead, the Devil in the Flesh. Original title, Los Muertos, la Carne y el Diablo. Here's the blurb. Here's the log line. A writer's dead wife returns from the grave to haunt him, and he finds himself attracted to her, quote, spiritual sexuality. Is this like neo-impulsivism or something? Like,
yeah, and he's condemning it. You know, it's so funny. His films were very like, they were critically appreciated, but also kind of, and I can relate to this. You know, he annoyed a lot of the filmmakers in Spain and the like film scene because they're like, oh, it's so Mormon, you know, so unapologetically like churchy. And then all the Latter-day Saints were, you know, very sensitive to the fact that he had made these films.
Oh, he just died.
Yeah, he just died.
In 2025 in Salt Lake City, Utah.
That's right. And we interviewed him just a year or two before that. And he gave us this beautiful, I'm telling you, Cardin, he's one of the sharpest people I've ever heard. And he was like in his 90s, his late 90s. And he was so intelligent about why he made his films and how deeply influenced they were, you know, by his view of the gospel. But look at this. When you think Mormon cinema, you know, there are other ways to look at it. And Jose really, really demonstrated this. But this kind of experimental approach was to kind of maybe be overshadowed by what we see in the fifth wave. So I'm going to jump back to the fifth wave now.
Yeah,
because this is what you all grew up with, okay?
Yeah.
And even if you're Gen Z, you still grew up with this, you know, by osmosis, because it starts in 2000, all right?
Okay.
And this was a culturally robust and commercially vibrant new art form. This is where Latter-day Saint-themed theatrical feature films produced independently of the church by independent filmmakers like myself were made by and for Latter-day Saints. Richard Dutcher kind of really kicked this off with God's Army, released in March of 2000, and it made him widely recognized as the father of this new movement in Mormon film. God's Army released, and no one had ever seen anything like this before. Where in fact, it's so interesting. One of the first lines of his film is like, it's a missionary, and he's going to come serve here in California, and you know, one of the trainers or something, you know, one of the senior elders turns around and tells him, he's like, you're not in Kansas anymore, and he's kind of making this declaration that it's like, you know what, we're doing things in a new and interesting way. And it exploded because there was a viable commercial market. Richard got this idea when he was reading about he was living in LA as a filmmaker, and he was reading about markets that were sustainable markets in the early 2000s for theatrical distribution, like, you know, LGBTQ films, especially at the time. It was like, this is made for the gay community, or like black culture. And he was like, you know what, I bet I could do this with Latter-day Saints. And so he told this really powerful story. And Richard is one of my favorite Latter-day Saint filmmakers. He made three. He made four. I've actually seen the fourth one, which has rarely been seen by people. It's like hard rated R.
The one that he bragged about, one that he bragged about on one billboard on the I-15.
I'm not sure why that was his marketing approach, because it's his masterpiece. I think it's the best. I think
really?
It's the best. Yes.
Is that just because you're a little bit of a shock jock and you like, you know?
No, I think it's fantastic. I think it's extraordinary.
Really? What's it about?
You'll have to look it up. Look up Falling. He's pretty. It's about a Latter-day Saint who is struggling coming back to the faith who's living in LA trying to make it as a filmmaker. So it's just very personal to him. But yeah, it's intense.
Okay.
And I thought, I had kind of heard rumors that like, oh, it's his, leaving the church film. That is not what it is at all. It's gorgeous. And he made it as he was leaving the church. But it is a grapple with faith and doubt and like, Richard's relationship. You can look all this up. There was a lot of drama between the filmmakers of the earlier part of this era, as there continues to be, but I really care about Richard, and I you can see him really sincere in his filmmaking. But he kicked this off with God's Army. Well, simultaneously, Mitch Davis was directing The Other Side of Heaven, which was a distributed by Disney. Big budget missionary film. And so this is sometimes how these kinds of things work, is that like something's just in the air and it all starts happening at once. And so this was the creation of a viable Latter-day Saint film market. So you get these classic movies that you may have grown up with, like The Best 2 Years and States of Grace and Brigham City. And of course I mentioned The Other Side of Heaven. So Mitch Davis directs The Other Side of Heaven. At the same time, you get a phenomenal documentary by Greg Whiteley called New York Doll. He's gone on to make some great documentaries. He made Mitt. The most significant documentary to date in the fifth wave as of the writing of Randy's piece. Most critics agree it represents a huge stride for Mormon films. So documentary was doing its thing too. And New York Doll is about a member of the New York Dolls.
Dude, top 10 documentary of my entire life.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And he joins the church, and like, he's this freaking like rock star, who joins the church and is trying to grapple these things. And then, of course, you have the influx of the comedies, the Singles Ward being the primary.
Don't say it was such disappointment, bro.
I didn't say it was disappointment. Yeah, I didn't say anything. I just said, of course, you have the influx of the comedies.
Of course, you got to let, the redheads in the back door. You know what I'm saying? Like, back of the bus comedians.
This is when the directors all start fighting each other.
Yeah.
And yes, so you get the by, for, and about comedies like The Singles Ward, and then you get the emerging from Mormonism like a true auteur director with Napoleon Dynamite, Jared Hess, which like feels, inspired by Idaho Latter-day Saint culture, was just this huge international phenomenon. So this was an exciting time for Latter-day Saint film. But one of the problems is that the market didn't prove super sustainable.
But no. Is it that the market didn't prove super sustainable, or they got greedy and lazy as filmmakers?
Well, see, this is up for the historians to decide.
Because I feel like the market was proven with the success of the first
proven with the success.
10 movies that you labeled.
Yeah.
It wasn't until they started pumping out lazy crap that all of a sudden people said, we'll choose to go watch something that's not lazy crap over there.
That has certainly been the prevailing critique. And I don't know that the market died as much as it was dramatically said to have died, because what's not listed in this, and what I feel like the fifth wave kind of calcified into, were really, really proficiently made devotional films. You have hit films among Latter-day Saints by T.C. Christensen, with 17 Miracles. So 17 Miracles was a huge hit among Latter-day Saints. And I think that it kind of found its stride through TC. You have great films by Garrett Batty with the Saratov approach, which was pushing the envelope a little bit, kind of like what Richard had been doing, but still in a way that felt more, especially felt for Garrett's film like contemporary and edgy and interesting. And so like, it was a sustainable market. I don't know that it is anymore, and now Latter-day Saint film has evolved so much into kind of this appeal toward other Christians. But to your point, Cardin, a lot of the cheaper kind of push through comedies did demonstrably dilute the market. And then you had problems where the filmmakers would not coordinate and would all release at the same time. So there is a fantastic example of this that Randy notes where I think it was, let me find it. It was The Work and The Glory. Charlie came out during this time. This is when Saints and Soldiers was released. But one of the things that Hollywood does is they coordinate and they're careful about their release schedules, because if you're going to go out, with your family or with your significant other and you're going to go see a movie, you're going to pick one and you may not go back to the theater like immediately. And you have this thing happen where a bunch of these films were like releasing at the same time, and in 2005 I think it was like cannibalizing the release. Let me see if I can find where it was where this happened.
Word.
And my contention, I suppose, as a filmmaker with the fifth wave is I think that what it settled into was a little bit also, Cardin, what we as Latter-day Saints as an audience would allow for. Because any working Latter-day Saint independent filmmaker can tell you, like, there is almost now a formula to what is going to work among a Latter-day Saint audience.
Yeah, whatever works amongst the Protestants, because they've so absorbed the Protestant sensitivities of, in our post-war wealth, we have literally just become Protestants 2.0 in our sensibilities, even though our doctrine is almost like Catholicism 2.0 or Judaism 2.0.
Right. And let me see if I can find where these were all.
Hey, the chicken ice cream and elevators is actually pretty hot. Robert Starling did a good job on his casting, man, dude. Look, you got some handsome devils, dude. Look at this. Hold on. Here we are. Look at these guys. She's beautiful. He's a Chad with that like 70s do and the big thick tie. Good job,
I
Starling.
can't find the
He's
specific
crushing it.
example, but what I will say is that the market cannibalized itself not just through lots and lots of movies coming out, but also and arguably of deteriorating quality, but also that they were releasing at the same time. They were fighting for the same investors. They weren't all necessarily getting a market return. I think people got tired of the and this is what I'll say too. Like, even though there were some really great movies made at the beginning of the fifth wave, I also have to say that like the newness of it, the novelty of it. Like, this was such a brand new thing to go to a movie theater
that had Mormon content.
Yes, for you. Like, it's your story on the big screen.
I went and saw Napoleon Dynamite because it was like, dude, they made a movie about Mormons.
Right. Yeah. And over time, that newness wore off, and then what Latter-day Saints really were comfortable with kind of got slimmer and slimmer in terms of like how we wanted to be depicted, how our stories are very devotional. We're used to that, and that brings us to the modern era, but also my very strong opinion that Latter-day Saint filmmakers should be telling their own stories, and it should be made by us, but it should not be for us. It should not be marketed to Latter-day Saints. So, maybe I sound hypocritical coming onto all these podcasts and like
you got to start somewhere.
Sharing my work with other Latter-day Saints. I'm happy to do that. But you are not the audience for The Angel. Like, for our films, in as much as we put Latter-day Saint, like specificity into it, we are making a broader appeal to a larger market, which if you're awake and not living under a rock, you can see that works. You can see what's happening in the media all around us. And if it feels like a Mormon moment now, all I can tell you is this has always been the case. In between Mormon Moment 1 and Mormon Moment 2 have been all of these shows like Stranger Things and The Expanse and Fargo and Physical and Godless and only when they that that like incorporate Latter-day Saint characters and ideas. There was a show called Messiah where the president of the United States is a Latter-day Saint guy, and like there's this new messianic figure, and he references the one mighty and strong. Listen, like we're so depicted, and I've written about this for a while, where it's like it's gonna tick up, guys. It's gonna keep ticking up, and only now with Heretic and American Primeval and The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, it's like, wait a minute, are we interesting? And it's like, guys, from the first wave, that's been true. Like, look, if you've ever read Sherlock Holmes, like Sherlock Holmes' first adventure, A Study in Scarlet, is all about the mystery of the Danites and all about like who are the Mormons and why are they so mysterious. And I feel really, really strongly that you can make beautiful, wonderful films for each other that tell each other our story. And I do think some Latter-day Saint filmmakers, even in the fifth wave, did a phenomenal job of this. New York Doll's a great example. Brigham City's a great example. Like the Saratov approach is a great example. You can make films that are for a large audience that tell our story in a complicated way that then also bring the Latter-day Saints along. Because, like, we're going to watch it. We're going to go see. We're going to respond to it. Word radio's going to respond to it. Like we'll watch it if it's about us. And if filmmakers hand the keys of the car over to, it's almost like, imagine a chef like coming to the customer and be like, you give me the ingredients, and like, I want to make sure, and it's like the client so often will ruin it, versus it's like, are you going to trust me as the chef to make the dish that's going to make everyone feel good and that'll taste good and also represent us with authenticity?
Dude, I just want to
passion.
get these costumes back. That's all I care
Oh,
about,
there's Corianton. There's her.
Dude.
There's her in that scene, and yeah.
Oh man, she's almost as hot as the Jezebel and the
That's kind of what she's supposed to
the
be.
The Lost Scriptures. Look at that. The Mormon Tabernacle Choir and organ. Wow. With famous Mormon Tabernacle organ and choir.
I want to be clear, too. I love these 5 waves of cinema. I probably watch more Latter-day Saint cinema than anybody. And champion it. I know who these filmmakers are. I know their work. I will defend it. And also, that gives me the credibility to call for a new wave of Mormon cinema, a new Mormon cinema, like Italian neorealism, German expressionism, French New Wave. We need a new Mormon cinema. We need to do things differently. And that's what Jessica and I are definitely working toward. That's what a lot of talented filmmakers are working toward. And that doesn't mean that, abandon the filmmakers who are working now. It simply means a shift in what the focus is. And I think we're already in a 6th wave. If you look at social media and you look at films like Heretic.
I was going to say, I feel like we're already in a 6th wave, because now
we're in it.
Like what we're going to be pumping out, like the comedy skits that I'm going to be doing with Go and Do.
We're in kind of the new media meets ex-Mormon, post-Mormon meets like Latter-day Saints telling stories in a provocative but authoritative and authentic way, and it's exciting. Like storytelling's never going to go away. I don't think that the Latter-day Saint, theatrical model is going to continue to be very viable year over year. We see this a little bit, but that doesn't mean Latter-day Saints aren't making great films through Angel Studios, like Truth and Treason, for example. I thought was phenomenal, and that is a great example of what I would call kind of a new Mormon cinema approach to telling our story. It's meant for a wide audience, but how could anyone say that that's not a Latter-day Saint
Did you say it's
story?
meant for a white audience?
A wide audience.
Because if we're talking,
and it's meant for a white audience. You ought to watch Truth and Treason.
You got to watch your words, bro. No, I'm just kidding.
But anyway, I know that was a lot of information, but there you go. Now you know the lost history of Mormon cinema, and like, go watch some of it. Go letterboxed it. Go read some of this stuff, and let's thank these founding fathers of great movies that have shaped our culture so much, and let's continue to build on that. And it's about every 20 years that this happens, and 25 years, and here we are in 2026, and the 5th wave started in 2000, and thank you again to the giants whose shoulders I'm standing on, who are the scholars that actually do this research. Randy Astle and Gideon Burton and Mason Kamana Allred, go look up their work. Read Mormon Cinema, the book. Order Randy's book, or at least at least give them a shout out if this was your, kind of your overview, and that's good enough for you.
Wow, that's crazy, man.
So,
well, dude, this was like way cool,
yeah,
bro.
let's go find some stuff. Let's restore it.
One last shout out to Paw 13W, I guess. Welcome to the Word Radio Wigwam. Put a W in the chat if you'd like to welcome him. And yeah, one last shout out to our this video sponsor, Angel Studios. It's just happened to be there today's sponsor.
That's great. Yeah, Angel Studios. Well, that's timely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
and you know what? Hey, one other thing. Angel Studios, like a distribution company founded by Latter-day Saints, and like they're disrupting the industry, in their own way, and it's just very interesting. And like, we didn't talk a whole lot about the institutional sensitivities and the culture and whatnot, but like incredible things are happening in the space even today. And I simply feel strongly that we should not move away from telling our story to just tell kind of nominally Christian stuff.
Oh yeah, no.
And that's where I sometimes worry with some of the powers that be that have suggested
they're desperately
they're
trying
interested in doing this.
Yeah,
I think Angel is in a tougher position because their hands are tied by their guild process.
They have to.
Yeah,
they
also
want to have to apply.
They have to. That's right. But I do know in some of our more some of the other powers that be there, and just kind of largely culturally, there is this instinct to upplay the values, shared values, family Christian values, and downplay the identity. First of all, that's a shrinking audience too, and mainstream evangelical Christian cinema is like 10 times more didactic, in my opinion, and more devotional, and than some of the great stuff that's come from Latter-day Saints. But I think that the exact opposite is how you catch a wider net, or like you mentioned to me that Kwaku's talked about, is that like we don't appeal to New Age spirituality in telling our story, and it's those very things that make us interesting to a larger audience, and so it's downplaying any kind of like maybe didactic value, kind of virtue signaling, and it's upplaying the identity elements, and just telling a human specific story that anyone could find really interesting. So anyway, man, you got me on my soapbox on this episode. Like, this is, Cardin waved a carrot in front of me and was like, talk about Mormon film. And I was like, I can't. It upsets people too much. I can't do it.
I didn't wave a carrot. I waved a thumbnail.
You waved a thumbnail. And I'm like,
thumbnail
all
with
right,
the Clawson brothers on it.
I'll talk about it.
That's funny. All right, guys. Well, one last call for Super Chats. If you have any questions.
Yeah, questions. Happy to answer.
For Barrett Burgin here, who is literally the man of the hour, who knows anything and everything about Mormon Cinema. Just ask away before we end this. But we do have some new stuff coming to the Ward Radio Wigwam. It's not going to be on sale today because it's Sunday. Super chats are one thing, kind of counts as a donation, I guess. I don't know what the justification is for that, right? But we're going to have, as of tomorrow, in the merch store, the what do you think of the new T-shirts, bro?
Oh, they're funny. They you know what? I just had one by me. They make me think of Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
Oh, here it is.
Right there. You got it? Yeah, dude. It finally came.
This is great. See, we need more of this.
Defend Starbase Golub.
And I mentioned all these shows. There's a sci-fi show called The Expanse. Pull this up. The LDSS Nauvoo. And look up LDSS Nauvoo Expanse. But the sci-fi show on, I think it's Amazon, The Expanse, has the Latter-day Saints that are going away in an intergenerational starship called the LDSS Nauvoo, and they're going to find their new planet. There's the Nauvoo. Look at that. And in the show, we also don't get away with it. Wait, find Moroni on it. So there's
right
one.
there
he
right?
is. Yeah, I don't think that's centered for the screen.
We're gonna see this really fast.
Yeah, there it is. There's I would board the LDSS Nauvoo in a heartbeat, man.
Dude, who wouldn't?
Intergenerational. We're gonna go find our new planet of Deseret. Like, count me in.
Yeah.
Count me in. You know,
That's so
what did Joseph
awesome.
Smith say? Is like he loved good society, and wherever the saints were, there was good society. And
That's funny.
you
And
know.
Brigham Young said they could send all the saints to hell, and we would make a heaven out of
that
it.
was Joseph Smith too.
Yeah.
That we turned the devils out. Some of y'all drive me crazy, but you're my favorite. Favorite people in the world.
That's funny. That is
So,
too funny.
anyway.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for everybody for hanging out with us today, guys. This was awesome. Thanks to all of our sponsors and their generosity. Barrett, if anybody wants to find you, where can they find you?
Yeah. So you can follow our filmmaking at burgundy.com. That's our production guy. I'm Barrett Burgin. My wife is Jessica Burgin. Burgundy. For people who don't like us, it's easy to remember. Burgin Die, BURGINDIE, like die. And for people who do like us, it's Burg Indie, because we're indie filmmakers. So BURGINDIE.com. And then on Instagram, we're Burgundy Pictures, where we're sharing updates about our 3 short films that we made a year ago, going through festivals: The Angel, Java Jive, A Scout is Kind, our feature and series that are in development, and we're just going to keep chugging away until one of these, blows up.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us. It's been real, and it's been fun, and it's been real fun. For this and more, please make sure you check us out at awardradio.com.
I built a rocket in my basement. I'm gonna fly it to the moon.